I work at a grocery store, and my coworker, I'm gonna tell you a little story, and I want your opinion on this. My coworker, right? I don't really talk to my coworkers that much, but my one coworker was asking me, what I did in my free time, and it was sort of like a panic. I had been thinking a lot about things to talk about on the episode with you because we had just gotten done talking on the phone or like texting each other, and I was like, man, I'm recording a podcast episode. I record a podcast every now and then. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I don't want to really talk about it. Like, as I said it, I was like, why did I say this? But this older woman, she looks at me and she goes, wow, you don't really look like the type that would do that kind of thing. And I argue that I look exactly like the kind of guy that would have a fucking podcast.
I would have to agree with you on that one. I think, I mean, no offense to you in any way, my boy. I either see that or I see GameStop employee.
Exactly.
It's just a little...
You can make a Venn diagram between the two.
Absolutely. I think leaning either or would be an absolute great career choice for you.
But to be fair, there's certain classifications of GameStop employees. Not the greasy kind.
there is the greasy kind. You see those every now and then, the basement dwellers, if you will, within regards.
Right. We're grease-free around here. But, yeah, welcome back, everybody. It's Uncommon Nonsense. Rolling into episode 10 here. I believe this is episode 10. We have a new voice, a new guest in the Uncommon Nonsense Studios. A good friend of mine from a few years ago. We worked. How long did we work together? It was like 2 years, right?
It had to have been like 2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know that we had met when I lived in a whole different town. You obviously lived near the same town. And we worked together at a restaurant that I probably shouldn't name the exact restaurant. So we worked together.
It was a pizza place.
Yeah, at the Krusty Krab, and it was great. The Krusty Krab, it was a great time. But I haven't seen you in a while, and I thought about, I was kind of reminiscing as I was at work the other night as well, about things to talk about, and I was like, I should talk to Casey. I should hit him up and have him on the podcast. But unbeknownst to me, you actually have listened before, which
absolutely,
yeah, but really appreciate that. Really warms my heart.
You always got to support your friends, even in the shadows,
right? But yeah, so we're gonna talk about some stuff. I mostly just wanted to catch up a little bit and see where that goes, and then I have a bit of a topic to bring up because you were not. I mean, you were pretty directly involved, but not directly responsible. You were a very prominent witness in said situations, in most.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In your unfortunate living situation.
Yeah, but anyway, I before we get into it, I did do a little research. In preparation, I reached out to some of your friends and some of your family, and they told me that you recently have won third place in Port Lincoln, Australia's 17th annual Tuna-Rama tuna tossing competition. Extremely impressive. I just want to say,
thank you.
I can't believe that you made it. First of all, you made it all the way out there in time for the event. I know that was with your hefty schedule. That was very rough for you, but the amount of bulking that you did just to toss those tunas as far as you did.
And believe it or not, it was all tuna. I ate it. I tossed it.
Really?
I did it all.
Wow.
I got to give it to the tuna in this situation, man. All thanks are given to me, and I appreciate it, but the tuna was the real.
I mean, you got to give it to the tuna, and you also got to give the tuna a toss, because that's how you won. It's the Tuna-Rama.
You tossed them, dude. I got to tell you, I've never tossed a tuna so far in my life than in Australia. The tuna tossing event was the most fantastic of all tossing I've ever done in my life.
Well, it's a pleasure to have a real champion, a homebred champion on the podcast tonight.
I husked corn. I
Yeah.
threw corn. Now I'm throwing. Or I was throwing salmon.
You know that's a real thing. What I said.
Throwing tuna.
The tuna.
Really?
It's Port Lincoln, Australia's Tunarama, and they see who can. Well, for a long time they were throwing real tunas. They would see who could throw a real tuna the farthest, and then they were like, this is kind of fucked up, and we probably shouldn't do this. So they stopped throwing real tunas, and they started throwing make believe tunas, like fake tunas. It would be like weighted to the same weight. Anyway, all that for a dumb joke. How you doing? How you doing, man?
I'm living these days, relaxing a little bit.
Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool.
Yep. Kind of scraping the crust off of all these years of being in the service industry, and
Ugh.
It's
crusty.
Oh, it's absolutely. You got to get a pressure washer to scrape it off.
Yeah.
You need a good couple months of washing. It's
pressure washer. Did you ever play Pressure Wash Simulator?
I have not, but I can say I've played Goat Simulator, Lawnmower Simulator. There's a lot of simulators out there.
Funnily enough, they all, well, not all of them, but a lot of them simulate the service industry. Which, why would you want to simulate hell?
That's a crazy thing, because those games aren't exactly ones that, fall off the market or people don't take seriously. There's a general fan base of those simulator games that have people generally streaming on Twitch, Facebook, that I see, just sitting there mowing the grass.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just talking.
They love it.
I can't believe it. Like, if I had to go out there and just mow grass, that's like you putting a GoPro on your lawnmower and mowing the grasses all day.
And it's getting like 1 million views.
That's crazy.
They're popping off. Fun fact, do you know what the mystery flavor of like Airheads and Dum Dums is?
I do not, actually. What is it?
I'll tell you.
That's a crazy flavor. I've never heard of that one before. What is it one more time? What's it called?
Mystery Airheads, mystery Dum Dums. Well, they don't have a flavor. It's a lie. They lie to you. Basically, the flavor of like the mystery is when they change like flavors in the machines. There's like an overlap, right? Like when you're making a bunch of the root beer ones, you know what I'm saying? And then you're like, oh, we got to switch to the cherry ones. There's an overlap there. And so they collect that. I'm serious. And they take it and they like thin it out like more than the other flavors. So it's just like vaguely sugary. Like, cause like you really can't tell what it is because it's an amalgamation of a bunch of flavors.
So with that being said, you think they color it afterwards then? They don't?
Well, no, because they're not colored. Like the flavoring isn't colored. Like that you can have.
Well, the mystery ones are always white, though.
Yeah, so they color it just like they color all the other ones once they have.
Oh, okay. They just color it white.
They color all of them.
Hmm.
So they add the flavoring, they add their little bit of color, which is white, because what is that flavor? You can't add a color to it, you know?
Right.
Because it's an amalgamation of other flavors.
Interesting.
That's what I heard. If that's false, if that's a lie, eat me alive in the comments.
That kind of sounds like, because there's a lot of products that are like clippings of other products, like bologna or the English Marmite,
hot dogs,
like the shit that's scraped from yeast, made from beer, and they just bottle that up and put it on some toast.
That's
kind of foul.
This might show just how Midwestern we are. But have you ever heard of Geta?
Like the cheese Geta?
No.
What?
It's a food. It's called Geta. It's Goetta. Or it might even be Getta. I don't know. I don't know. But it is literally it. So in the city of Cincinnati, when it was started, it was a lot of German people,
right?
That came from Germany, and so they needed like an effective, low income food for people that like were settling, that didn't have a bunch of money to afford like all these prime meat cuts, and stuff. So they made their own type of sausage, which is Geta, which is essentially like the beef equivalent of a hot dog. Like it's like all the
It's
nasty,
just the organs, the clippings,
all the nastiest shit
packed in a tube with some salt,
packed in a tube with enough salt to cover the grossness.
Right.
And they fry that. It's the nastiest smelling thing I've ever smelled in my entire life. I will say that it smells horrible.
Yeah, Cincinnati is a interesting city for peculiar shit. Like if you're actually from the city, if you ever come here on vacation for any reason, maybe Bengals game or whatever. I mean, there's some things here that they'll tell you, but unless you live in this city or at least in the outskirts, there's some shit you find out. Like, I guess a cool thing is there is an old, I don't know if it was a speakeasy or if it was a like distillery, but like it was from like the early 1900s. They turned it into like this jazz bar.
Okay.
And it's called the Ghost Baby down in Cincy.
Ooh, the Ghost Baby.
Yeah, it's a really cool place. That's like an underground shit.
Shout out the Ghost Baby. I've never been, but hit me up. And we can. I'll read an ad for you. Listen, I don't know like how many of the episodes that you've listened to, but in one of them, I forget which one exactly. I did a fake ad read where I was like, hey, everybody, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by me because I just wanted to practice reading an ad read. I don't potentially not to be okay. So it makes me feel like I want to sell out already, but I would have liked to do ads on the podcast just because I think that reading ads would be kind of fun. I don't know, maybe that's dumb, but there's a lot of people that I listen to like podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts and they read ads and make them like entertaining, and that's kind of how I want to lean with it. As long as companies are like, a lot of them are willing to work with
Drink
that.
Gatorade, bitch! It'll wake you up after a workout.
Damn, Gatorade. Where's my paycheck? Well, Casey's paycheck, but it's my podcast, so it would go to me, and I'll give most of it to him. But I get a little bit. Well, but
where's Collin's paycheck?
Where's the uncommon nonsense paycheck? You know, the uncommon paycheck.
The uncommon paycheck.
Sadly, it's been a few years since we've actually like hung out, which, you know, I went through a really weird period. So what I'll say is when I actually met you, I was in a super weird time in my life, and I've come to terms with a lot of the reasons why I was the way that I was, but I was super like not functioning as a person, and like I'm still kind of working through that. Not to like, now this has become therapy hour, but all that to say, we saw some shit in
we did experience some shit in our Krusty Krab. Yeah,
in the Krusty Krab. So I'll give a light amount of backstory here. I was living in an apartment by myself. I forget how much it was a month, but it was pretty crappy.
I remember it was atrocious because you were complaining about it a lot to me, how miserable you were in there.
Yeah, it sucked. I recently went through a pretty harsh breakup. I was engaged with somebody, and it was cut off, and so that, you know, was not super great, and I went, you know, bad time, whatever. We all have dips, we all have lows. That's not the point of the podcast. But a friend of mine reached out, like we had hung out, and it was a friend that I had known for years. We'll call him Jerry. Jerry was like, hey man, you know, I've been over to your place once or twice. We've hung out, and this sucks. This apartment is awful, and you should not live here, is like what he said. Like, not, you know, to be a dick, but like, you know, you should do better for yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you know, I appreciate it, but I can't really afford much. And like, I was in between jobs at the time too, so I was like just barely scraping by. And Jerry is like, one day randomly, he's like, hey man, let's hang out. Like, I got some things I got to do. You want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he shows up in my apartment, and I remember I was wearing sweatpants. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Just get in the car, going for a ride.
So we get in the car, and we drive a pretty good ways away. I think it's about 20 minutes from here. Is that fair? Yeah. Maybe about 30, depending on traffic.
It's a good little drive for you from here.
Yeah, but a good ways away. And we pull up in an apartment complex. And he's like, yeah, I'm looking at an apartment. Like, come look at this apartment with me. And I was just super confused. But I was like, I guess he didn't want to look at his apartment by himself. And so I walk into the office thing, and there's a couple sitting on a bench. And
we can call this couple Dick and Jane.
we'll call them Dick and Jane. And so this is my first meeting with Dick and Jane. We walk in, and he immediately walks towards this couple, which I thought were just there for their own apartment. And I was like, oh, okay, no, these are people. And he's like, yeah, this is Dick and this is Jane. They work with me at the Krusty Krab. And I was like, wow, Jerry, like, that cool, So I'm meeting these people, and they were nice and all this. And Dick made a comment at one point, like, I forget exactly what it was, but it alluded to, like, how much time would I need to get my stuff. And I was very confused, and I was like, I just kind of brushed it under the rug. I was like, it's the first time we met, maybe he's confused about something. Like, I'm not going to, who cares? Brush it under the rug, forgot about it. We go to this apartment, right? We walk in. The apartment itself, I will say, was not bad. It wasn't
pretty
a bad
decently
place.
Sized apartment.
It wasn't, like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
It's like a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. And we walk in, and they're looking around, and they're like, yeah, like, we'll take this room, and we'll put the couch here and do this and whatever. And fuck. Cut that out. Anyway, so
Jerry
Seinfeld. What's the deal with this apartment? So Jerry, as we're looking at this apartment, turns to me, and he says, so, you want to move in? And I was like, what? Like, it took me a second, I was, confused as shit, because he literally said, come, like, I have to go do something, come with me. And, like, usually when we would hang out in the past, that meant, like, my grandmother wants me to go to Walmart. You know what I mean? Like, come with me to Walmart, and we'll get, like, Taco Bell or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, just going on a little venture for
right.
the day.
And so, I'm kind of befuddled. I'm kind of baffled, if you will.
Flabbergasted,
Yeah, that's a good one. But I didn't really give him a straight answer. I was like, I don't know, like, man, I don't really know these people, and, like, I know you, and, like, we've been good friends and all this, but like, this is a lot. And then
these are two strangers, like, you don't know these two other people
exactly
at all.
And so Dick and Jane then walk up to us. They had been discussing their bedroom layout. They had already picked out a bedroom. And they walk up, and Dick is like, yeah, so I think with all four of us, splitting it 4 ways, we can definitely swing it. And they had already signed a lease. Like, they signed the lease with 3 people, and he says, I think with 4 people we can make it. So, like, they had already counted on, I mean, at least to me, it sounded as though they'd already counted on me moving in. Like Jerry had discussed this idea.
Jerry was like, oh yeah, he's going to say, yeah, he hates this place.
Yeah. But I said, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I did hate the apartment, so I've moved to a different apartment with people I didn't know. So all this to say, we're gonna talk about bad roommates, because I mentioned earlier this podcast, which if you're listening on any platform, YouTube, Spotify, Vinyl, thank you and I love you. But the podcast, it's all fun, it's all goofs, it's all gaffs, but sometimes you can learn something. I feel like there's nothing wrong with learning something. The last thing I want is to approach the situation sounding as if I'm innocent. As I said earlier, I was in a very weird spot in my life, and I was a very not stable person. That being said, a lot of these situations could have been avoided had I acted differently, or had the other parties acted differently as well. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of the times, the other parties.
Exactly. Which is why I wanted you here to vouch for me on this.
Absolutely.
Because I could sit here alone and talk about how awful Dick and Jane and sometimes Jerry were, but it would just be me complaining and no one. I mean, like everyone, and here's the thing, I don't harbor any ill will towards these people. I really don't. Like, I would appreciate even after the shit that we'll talk about, I would appreciate sitting down with Dick now that it's been years and being like, we had some weird shit go on because we were both not, it wasn't a great situation, and it wasn't completely our faults, But that being said, I contemplated bringing this up a lot and recording this episode a lot, but we're doing it because I want people to learn not only from Dick, but from me. Learn how to be a decent roommate, for the love of God, because sometimes you gotta share a living space with somebody eventually, whether it's a roommate, a friend, or a significant other. Just as hard, arguably.
I'd argue hard or significant other.
Yeah.
That's a tough battle to win.
Yeah. All that being said, obviously names have been changed for things because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm trying to tell my story. This is my podcast, and I'll talk about whatever the fuck I want to. Right, Casey?
That's right, baby.
All right. So, and I know that you told me that you had some bad roommate tales.
Absolutely. I recently, 3 months ago, just got out of my roommate situation, so I'll absolutely chime in with my stories.
Hang on. My wife texted me about sandwiches. I'm kind of hungry, and I don't like bitches. It didn't really fit the... I kind of fucked it there.
Wait. Bitches on the bike.
Do you want anything from Penn Station?
Shit.
Alright, sorry about that. Minor inconvenience. Because you're going to be able to... I'm not going to be able to cut out the fact that my phone went off. I should have turned my phone ringer off. Anyway... This is a Lucy. We're having fun here. This is Lucy, Goosey, Obtusey, and Juicy.
Loosey goosey.
Yeah, basically, I moved in with these people. I moved in with Dick, Jane, and Jerry.
Dick, Jane, and Jerry.
Dick, Jane, and Jerry, and they had a dog named Joseph.
I don't remember what their dogs. I mean, you could probably say their dog's actual name. I don't even remember their name.
Yeah, I mean, Okay, so yeah, I probably can, because if they hear it, they're going to know who they are anyway. They'll know who they are, but
nobody else will.
I don't want that, yeah. Their dog's name was Jackson, and he was an unruly piece of shit. Do you remember that?
I got a story about that dog real quick, actually.
Do you?
Like, we had I had them over at my parents one time, and I have Samson. You've seen Samson.
Dude, the most beautiful, it looked like a bear.
He's like 180-pound Newfoundland Great Pyrenees. Yeah. And he's big and black. He looks like a black bear.
He's wonderful.
But he's the sweetest dog. He's scared of his own shadow and doesn't do anything. This dog is a pit bull, mind you, for some subcontext.
It was a pit bull mixed with other things.
Yeah, but it was an unruly
mostly pit bull.
Yeah, but the point of it was they never got this dog neutered, so it was a shelter dog. So who knows what happened to this dog prior? Right. I'm not an advocate for all pit bulls are bad, but it's an aggressive breed and you got to train them.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not. They let it do whatever it wanted and never got it neutered. So that dog came over to my parents' house with my parents' big black dog. And it ended up like trying to fight it in our house.
Yeah.
And embarrassed as fuck because I'm bringing my parents home. I'm bringing my friend to my parents.
Right.
And it was no like, I'm sorry,
also
my bad.
Your coworker.
Yeah, like somebody I was kind of vouching for, and there was no like, I'm sorry, my bad. Oh my god, that was a mistake. Right. Nothing. It was just they left.
And like the thing about that dog, here's the thing. I really like dogs. I really like most animals, But like you said, I mean, like you got to train a dog. And if you're not going to put in the time and effort to train the dog, it's not going to go well. You're just not going to have a good time. So that dog was awful.
Oh, it was. And I'm sure still is.
Yeah. But Yeah, we moved in. We moved in, the four of us, into this 2-bedroom apartment. Tried to share a room with Jerry.
And it was bunk beds, wasn't it? You guys
Yeah.
in? Yeah.
I had I was a 19-year-old on a top bunk. It was like a bunk bed futon situation. So like the top bunk, it was a twin size bed, but it wasn't like a kid's bunk bed. It wasn't like
it wasn't bad, but it's not exactly ideal in your almost 20s to share a room with another guy.
And especially that was when I met Emily too.
Right, so you can't have your girlfriend in your own room.
No, yeah,
have privacy.
It was awful. In the end, I moved back to my hometown. I still live in the town that I was raised in. Not that I was born in, but that I grew up in. But I had a job here, and this is where my apartment was, where I moved from. And so I needed a job, right? And where we lived, and I don't drive. I didn't drive back then. I still don't drive for personal reasons. I don't drive. There was an opportunity proposed to me from Jerry to work where he worked, which was at the Krusty Krab, which had been converted into a pizza restaurant for the sake of the story. And I met our wonderful boss, Mrs. Krabs. She was great.
Wonderful person. That woman is a fantastic person.
Yeah, if by any chance, Mrs. Krabs, you ever hear this, just know I still hold a whole lot of respect for you, despite...
Yeah. You know who you are. You're a beautiful woman.
Yeah, so I started working at the Krusty Krab, and the whole experience, and I'm gonna talk about specific instances, but I want to say that the whole experience out of it, I came out with 2 people that I still hold very close, as close friends, being you and a good friend of mine, Will, which I hope to one day soon have on an episode.
That'd be great. I would love to see Will.
He's a great guy. We're basically like pen pals. We'll talk. Well, because he's also a really big D&D nerd, so I'll have like D&D questions and message him, and it's always a good conversation. But living with Dick, Jane, and Jerry, and you worked with us at the Krusty Krab, so you worked directly. You worked with Dick a lot.
Yeah, I was there for probably a year before you.
Yeah.
And I worked with Dick and Jane quite a lot. Dick was the general manager. That wasn't his title, but he was the general manager, and his girlfriend Jane was the manager, and then Jerry was another one of the managers. So they kind of ran this restaurant, and I was an employee at the time, and the Mrs. Krabs,
yes,
she had a big liking to me because I worked hard, and I came in there with a good attitude. I was personable to her, and they, I guess, felt threatened by that, from the attention she was given to me. So it was like Collin's perspective, good at first, and then starts going downhill because of the threat.
Right.
So as Collin was coming in, our relationship was starting to decline anyway.
Yeah.
Which kind of fueled the fire a little bit.
And I think I would love to hear in the comments again, because like I said, I don't want to come at this as if I'm innocent in these situations, but I would love to hear like other people's, outside perspectives on it. If, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think what I have kind of pieced together, and what we'll kind of learn together through the course of these stories about Dick in particular, is that he has a real control problem.
Oh yeah, real control freak.
It's an issue. It's an issue of control,
mm-hmm.
And you threatened. The minute that you began to threaten his control over the employees that worked under him, he became hostile.
And mind you, I'm 21 now. This was when I was 16, going on 17.
Yeah, you were a manager at 17.
Right.
Which was, I mean, like, I don't know how wild that is nowadays, but it was impressive. I will say, I'm sure you remember, as I mentioned, the weird part of my life, I had a horrible work ethic during this time.
I did get on Collin quite a bit.
My work ethic was garbage, and I will admit that. You had an outstanding work ethic as a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? So, and that's not, I mean, like, I don't know how rare that is, I guess, but I haven't seen it a lot. I feel like when I was 17, even up until 19 years old, all I cared about was chilling out and getting some weed, you know?
Yeah.
I've talked about, I don't know, I've talked about weed before on the podcast. It's getting to the point now where it's not really like, people don't fucking care.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think this day and age, especially, is a lot of kids growing up are, instead of sneaking out to drink a beer with your buddies, now it's sneaking out to go smoke a joint, just from how, I guess, more readily accessible it is to.
And safer, I feel. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I would rather, as somebody that has been around people that have been drunk and been high, I feel like the person that is wildly drunk is in more immediate danger than the person that is wildly high.
I'd say if you took a concept of a bar and replaced that with weed instead of alcohol, you would have much more crime and much less police response to that bar, just from the lack of violence and lack of stupidity that alcohol causes. Besides weed, and obviously,
right,
drinking and everything.
Although I do feel like people would try to rob that weed bar a lot.
That is true. Maybe, yeah, that is a good point. Maybe they have a police presence for robs, but I mean, you can do that either way.
Right. Either way, that was off the rails.
Off topic.
Basically.
Have to have a weed episode, man.
Yeah. That'd be good.
That'd
be good. Well, I keep mentioning I would like to make a Patreon and do Patreon exclusive episodes. So if you guys would like to hear an episode where me and Casey specifically talk about all of our weed adventures, we could do that, and I would put it on the Patreon for sure. I feel like I feel like that's better suited for a paid Patreon than just like YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want it's not the same lady. She doesn't run YouTube anymore. It's a new guy.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want him to be mad at me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I hear he's been bombing a lot of people. Same with Twitch recently. So
and like Obama with the hospitals in the Middle East. By the way, this podcast is not politically affiliated. I was just joking.
I think everything's jokes. This is all satire, folks.
Yeah,
all
everything is
comedian.
Everything is in Minecraft. He did that in Minecraft.
That was really good. Oh my
god. It's a Minecraft zombie. Anyway. That was really good. That sounded really good. Yeah. Damn. We should re-record. They should let us do the new Minecraft.
I agree.
I want to do the walking where it's like...
Shout out Phil Spencer, bro. If you hear this, me and Collin can be excellent Minecraft voice actors.
For real. You ever walk on sand in Minecraft and it's like...
Shout out Mojang Studios.
You ever watch SpongeBob and you hear Squidward walking and he's like...
Can you do the Mr. Krabs?
No, I don't got any fucking... It's like coconuts smacking together is what that is.
It's like...
Just, yeah. Wild beating. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. I took us completely off the rails there, but...
Kind of forget where we were in the story.
Yeah. It all led up to, I met our boss, and started working, and you were working there as well, and I didn't realize going in that I would be working under one of, specifically like all of my roommates, but one at the most, being Dick, because he was like the general manager, right?
Right.
I didn't realize that. Nobody told me that until I got hired. But then at that point, I was like, why don't I, whatever. He seems like a nice enough guy. So there were a lot of, minor things that people do. People do things. And not everybody does things the same way that you does things.
There's little quirks that just seem off.
They does things the way they does things, and, that's all fine, and that's things that you have to learn to live with. So what I'm not going to talk about is the little quirks of, like, leaving the bag of cereal open in the
Oh,
box,
no,
like
that's just human
unrolled.
things, you know.
Right.
It's just kind of being
Even though
lazy.
that, I will say, that is monstrous.
It is
roll,
annoying.
You
Oh,
roll
absolutely.
the plastic bag up because
Right.
otherwise the cereal goes stale in the box.
I'll put a whole
Everyone knows
clip
that.
on that.
Exactly, right. At
potato
least,
chip
at the
clip.
very least, roll the bitch up, but put a clip on that
Right.
shit. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about things that I took personally as a personal offense. Okay? And we're going to start with the shoe incident. So, this was pretty early on. Mind you, this is the first, like, moving in, the day I moved in with these people, because we signed it, and I will say, I never signed the lease. They had already signed the lease. I never signed it.
You were
I was
ghost
just
tenant, essentially.
I was just coasting, helping pay the bills, living there, right? Under the nose. I'm sure that wasn't allowed at wherever we were.
Oh, not at all.
No, but I was there anyway. Who cares? What are you gonna do? Sue me? This was like 4 years ago now. So they signed the lease and we moved in that night. You know what I mean? I had my whole apartment moved that night, which was not a lot of stuff, but we didn't have like any chances, like any real time to get to know each other before we moved in, which is advice number 1.
Oh, that's awful.
Get to know the person that you're moving in with before you fucking move in with them.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know who they are, you're gonna find out really quickly, and you probably won't like it.
Even if that's your best friend,
Yeah.
even if that's your girlfriend,
Yeah.
you better really sit there and think before you move in with somebody.
You need to analyze almost every aspect of that person, and that sounds like almost serial killer shit. And I'm sorry, but it's kind of the truth. Like, I found that after what these stories have taught me is that I need to analyze these people that I'm spending my time with, because was a blatant what I see, and this is, I'm gonna tell this to you. I think I've told this story to you in the past, but it was years ago. So I'll retell it to you, and I'll tell it to the audience. I want people to let me know if sounds like it came from a place of disrespect from Dick, because I felt that it did. So, as we're all mingling and, like, you know, just starting to get to know each other in our new living space, they got their room like all set up and decorated the way they wanted. So they're like, come check out our room, guys. And I was like, okay, you know, so we go in there. And I see that Dick has an assortment of shoes, like a lot of them. And I was like, oh, you're a big shoe guy. And he was like, yeah, and he opened his closet, and there's just tons of shoes. He's like, I got tons of shoes. And I was like, that's crazy. That's a lot of shoes. And he was like, well, and the thing is, I just hold on to old pairs. Like, a lot of these I don't wear anymore, but I just can't get rid of them. And I was like, okay, like, it wasn't like hoarder level shoes. I did it hyperbolize, but
somewhat of a collector.
Yeah, for a person, like, it was a lot of shoes, I would say.
Like 20, 30
I
pairs,
have a couple
probably.
pairs of shoes. I don't have like a whole lot of shoes, you know? But he had a whole lot of shoes.
He had
anyway,
one for each day of the month.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. But he's like, a lot of these are old and I don't wear them anymore. And so we're talking about shoes, and he's like, what size are you? And my shoe size is a 9.5 in men's. So I don't know, people will probably make tiny little feet. But he's like, oh, no way. Me too. So Jerry, who's also in the room, is like, oh, no way. Me too. So all of a sudden, Dick is pulling out these pairs of shoes, like old pairs of shoes, and is like, look, I don't wear these anymore. I don't wear these anymore. I'm going to put them in the hallway, or not in the hallway, but like right by the door when you come in, like in like the entryway is what I meant to say. And he was like, these, there's like 5 pairs of shoes, right? Like Vans, and like, you know, there's like a pair of Nikes, there's like an all white pair of whatever's, you know, and he's got them put out, and he's like, look, these I don't wear ever. So if you guys ever want to wear these, feel free. You know what I mean? I'd rather somebody use them, but I don't want to get rid of them. But if somebody uses them, then that's cool.
So made it crystal clear that y'all can wear these. I don't wear them. No problem.
Exactly. But he was like, the shoes that are in my closet, don't wear. He was like, I don't want the shoes taken out of my closet. Bingo. Got it. Okay? Remember that. Because I will say they were nice shoes. He had a thing for white shoes, and he had a lot of really clean pairs of white shoes, which is hard to do.
He had the Jordan 1 whites. There were some rare pair that were worth a couple $1,000 right now.
Yeah, but that's hard to keep them really, really clean like that. He was good at that, so I will commend you, Dick, if you ever hear this. But anyway, I think I set out a pair or two, and so did Jerry, of shoes that we had, because I had a couple pairs too that were older. And I was like, I don't really wear these, so if you guys want to wear them, yeah, that's fine. We have now a community shoe pool of old shoes, not old decrepit shoes, but shoes that we aren't they're not brand new. We don't really care that much,
Just a community shoe bit in a way,
right? And it was cool because he had a cool pair of Vans that I wore to work all the time.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, all this to be said, all that happened with the shoes. I had a pair of Converse. I like Converses and I like Vans. Those are kind of the shoes that I typically wear. Boots in the winter because it gets snowy here.
Right.
When it's warm, I'm wearing Converses or Vans, but typically Converses. I had a brand new pair of Chuck Taylors, the original, classic All-Stars, red. Beautiful. Pristine. I'd worn them one time, to a movie theater, and I scrubbed them afterward. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I put them in the box, still in the box, in my closet. And the rest of my shoes that I wore all the time, obviously, were in boxes, and they were also in my closet. And then I had the pairs that were out with the rest of them that I didn't really care about. This one pair was in the box still, right? So what I learned very quickly is Dick had a problem with privacy. He didn't give a shit. And he would just walk into our room. So I was asleep on my top bunk. And I hear Dick walk the door open. And he walks into our room. Right? And I saw him. You know what I mean? It was Dick. Because, you could be like, what if it was Jerry? Because we shared a room. He was still asleep. Under me. You know what I mean?
These two people are very different size,
yeah,
too. Jerry's very small and
little bunk. So, anyway, I hear Dick come in and I think, okay, maybe he's dropping something off on the table or something, or I don't know.
For Jerry on the table.
Fuck. Thank you. Maybe he's dropping something off for Jerry or something on the table, or, who knows? I'm too tired to think anything of it, so I turn over and go back to sleep. And lo and behold, he went into our closet and taken my brand new Converses out of the box and put the box back where the box was. And here's the thing, I didn't show him where I wasn't like, hey, check out these brand new Converses, I'm gonna put them in the closet. You know what I mean? I don't know how he knew that they were there. But he took them and wore them. So I wake up. I have no idea. I'm none the wiser. Because why would I think to wake up and check my Converse box? You know what I mean? I'm sitting on the couch, and they walk in with Jackson from the dog park. And I look down, and this motherfucker's wearing some red Converse. And I was like, those are pretty nice. And I was like, I got a pair of the exact same shoes in the closet. And he was like, no, these are yours. And I was like, bro, what? And he was like, yeah, well, I thought we were cool with wearing each other's shoes. And mind you, I had only worn a pair of his shoes maybe twice at this point. And they was in the community shoe pool. So I was like, bro, what the fuck, man? I got mad. I was like, take those off, dude. Give them back. And he had worn them to a dog park.
So they're all muddy and destroyed.
They were dirty. I mean, they weren't destroyed. To be fair, I still have the pair of shoes to this day. It's been years and I do still have them. Because I'm good at not wearing them to they're Converses. You can't fucking wear them to a dog park.
No.
It's muddy and there's dog shit. You know what I mean? You just can't do that. You wear Converses to the grocery store. You know what I mean? You wear Converses
walking around town.
To maybe a normal park. You know what I mean? That's fine. Wear Converses anywhere else. Go to your friend's house in a pair of Converses. if he had worn them to the grocery store, I would have been significantly less mad. I would have still been
like, why are you in my closet? But...
Right. I would have still been pretty upset, but not as mad as I was. So anyway, he gives them back, and he's like, okay, well then we won't wear each other's shoes. And I was like, that's fine. I don't fucking want to wear your shoes then if you're gonna wear my Converses to the dog park.
Right.
And that was pretty much the end of it. We stopped. We immediately we created a shoe pool with like, and I didn't also say like when he said don't go into my closet and take shoes out of my closet, because he did say that. I didn't also be like, yeah, well don't do that to me either. But I think that if you're like, hey man, I would appreciate it if you don't use, I don't know.
You probably assume that the other person is doing the same.
I assumed it went the other way.
Like, if you, number one, why are you walking in someone else's room in the first place and sleeping on their shit? Because that raises the question of how the fuck did he know that those were sitting in the closet in the first place?
Exactly.
Second of all, if you have that rule set in place, you would assume that that person having those shoes in the closet, especially looking that good, doesn't want other people fucking them up.
Right.
Which is why they're in the closet in his, private space.
In a box.
Right. And also had that prior talk of, hey, any shoes that are free game put over here.
Right.
In which they were not. Again, besides all of that, why the fuck was he in the room in the first place snooping on your shit?
That's the thing, though. He did that a lot. They would just come into our room.
That would infuriate me.
And here, that leads me into story 2 that I will give to you. And I'm gonna say, I want to preface this as well, because I tried to give as much of a disclaimer. I don't hate dogs, but I had a problem with this specific dog. Okay.
This specific dog was a problem more than a dog.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
It was.
Lack of training. I blame the owners than the animal.
Yeah. I was asleep on my top bunk, taking a snooze. Right. Okay, so Jane and Jerry were at work. So it was just me and Dick. It was Dick and I. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
Just the two of us.
Yeah. It was just Dick and I. And I was sleepy. I was sleeping because I'm a sleepy guy. I sleep a lot.
Snorlax, man.
Yeah, dude. I take a lot of naps. I used to take naps at the Krusty Krab. You remember?
That is true.
I would take naps in the back.
He would sleep on the table or on the rack in the back that held our dishes and shit.
Yeah, it was. I cleared off one of the racks. I put a rug on it.
And then you take a nap.
Yeah, and it worked, dude.
You'd be back there for like an hour and a half. I go back there and wake him up.
But hey, we need you now.
He'd be useless for 30 minutes, and then he'd be awake, and we're good.
Yeah. Bingo. But anyway, I was asleep, and Dick opens my door, which was closed, and he's like, hey, are you awake? Which obviously woke me up, so I was like, and he asked me something, or offered, I think he was cooking something. I think he was like, I think I'm gonna, or I don't know. It was something like that. He was like, I think I'm gonna make, whatever. Do you want some, eggs or something? And I was like, no, I'm okay. I appreciate it, And he was like, all right, no problem. And he leaves. And he leaves the door open. And my sleepy ass doesn't realize that he leaves the door open. And there's a big fucking dog in this apartment. Now, mind you, I'm on a top bunk, so it's not like he can jump on me and lick my face and bite me. He wouldn't have bitten me anyway, but
Right.
Well, maybe. I don't know. The fucker was crazy. But the dog did come into our room and lay a massive shit on the carpet. So I woke up to this putrid stench. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, Dick, yelling. I was like, dude, your dog. And he was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't take him out. And he, comes in and he, cleans it. But he just kind of picks it up. You have to, spray stuff.
Right,
and,
so you just scooped it up with some paper towels and left. I got you.
And I was like, dude, I appreciate the fact that you were like kind enough to offer me food or whatever it was that you offered me. I appreciate that. I really do. But if you're going to open my door, close it. You know what I mean? Especially if you have your dog running around that's going to shit on the carpet.
Either that or close it in your room.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Or take the dog outside and teach him how to not shit on the carpet, because he shat on the carpet a lot.
Oh, I remember, because, and this is not a cap on Collin at all, but the house smelled like shit. Like,
it smelled awful.
It smelled awful. Every time I was in there, I was like, good Lord.
It smelled really bad.
And I'm sure it's because would have,
he wouldn't...
Fucking, Dick would probably just go over there and scoop it with a paper towel and let the stench linger in the house for months.
Who knows how often he did that, but I specifically, like, went and got spray stuff out of the bathroom and sprayed it on the carpet, you know what I mean? Because, like, I'm not letting that sit. I don't want that on the carpet in our room, you know what I mean? I don't have a dog. I don't have a massive dog that shits on things. I don't know. The dog wasn't completely bad. It's just a dog at the end of the day, and, like, I don't know.
The problem was the negligence from the owner.
Yes.
Is it all wraps around to. It's not
Absolutely.
the animal we're complaining about. It's just the I don't give a fuck attitude from the owners.
Right.
And when a problem was brought up, it was kind of like, oh, my bad, but would never do anything about it.
Exactly. It's a big, like, inconsideration for other people.
Correct.
So, I will say that brings me to my final story of Dick and Jane, which there's a lot of things that I could say, but I don't want to sit here and put them on blast for an entire hour, even though I kind of have. I will say one of the weirdest things that Dick and Jane did as a couple is Jane liked Oreos, but she didn't like the cream in the middle, which is the opposite of how everyone, I feel like you like the cream. Like, I like both parts, but the cream is the better part. If I had that, like,
That's kind of what makes the Oreo.
Right. Otherwise, it's just chocolate cookie. She just likes chocolate cookies. So she would take Oreos, and I shit you not, a normal pack of Oreos, and split them apart to the point where, like, the fillings would all come out, and she would stack them into a giant stack that Dick would then take two plain Oreos and, like, mush together into, like, a big abomination of cream, like a giant glob of cream in between two Oreo cookies, and eat that. And it made me sick every time I saw them do it. Every time I saw them do it, it made my stomach... I wanted to puke.
It's like yin and yang, man. I don't know. That's like, one doesn't like the cream. One really likes the cream.
Likes it way too much. One likes it way too much, dude.
Oh, shit.
It was bad. But, and there's a lot of other transgressions that happen. We would get in minor arguments, like, because when he was in a bad mood, everyone knew. And there's a difference between knowing someone's in a bad mood and having a rough day, and making everyone else have a rough day because you're having a rough day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I specifically remember he was very into, I think it was GTA Online, and his Xbox Live ran out at one point, I believe. And he was infuriated.
Oh yeah, his anger was the biggest
like
part about him.
Like punching walls, man.
Like, I won't get on any character traits of anybody, but that's the one that you can control. And his anger was bad. Like, this man,
horrible.
I witnessed on a busy Friday night. We're out of dough and said Krusty Krab for our busy night. And instead of kind of just
too many fish in here.
My drink.
My leg.
But yeah, we ran out of doughs, and instead of kind of trying to find a problem to the solution as a GM should and remaining calm, he instead goes in the back and starts punching cement walls as hard as he can.
Yeah.
And will like throw the dough drum, like the 50-pound titanium drum, just toss it in the back, and that shit would, like, you'd hear in the front of the store like a fucking gunshot.
Yeah.
And everybody's in the store like, what are you doing,
What the
dude?
hell, man? Well, and specifically, I remember Dick and Jane got in an argument because Jane had a little problem with undermining his authority. And he lost his absolute mind. And they were arguing, and like when I tell you they were arguing, I mean like they were a couple arguing at home, arguing.
This was in the middle of the restaurant with all the employees around
and customers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a very busy day, but it was like a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there was people there.
There was good.
There was
like
people
20,
having
people
Krabby Patties and like kids.
A bunch of fish in there.
Bunch of fish.
Bunch of customers.
Bunch of nematodes and like meat.
Thirsty.
Yeah, and they eat the pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they got in this fucking argument, dude, and I shit you not. Dick got so angry to the point where he punched a cement support beam in the middle of the kitchen.
Like 4 times, man.
4 to 5 times.
Hard as he could.
Full force, punching it.
I don't know, he didn't break his wrist when he did that.
Our boss, there was a Mrs. Krabs and a Mr. Krabs, and this Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs settled down with
and
a
they
lovely
were married.
woman.
They were a married couple.
They were a lovely couple. I love them to this day. But Mr. Krabs was like the real owner. He wasn't there all the time, but when he was there, it was kind of, I felt like it was a little bit more important. Because he was the one that like made a lot, like Mrs. Krabs made a lot of decisions.
Mrs. Krabs was the owner, though.
Was he?
Yeah, Mrs. Krabs was the absolute owner for sure. Mr. Krabs had a pattern shop, or still does have a pattern shop.
Does he?
And Mrs. Krabs, that was like her dream, and so she was like the boss. But of course, Mr. Krabs was also, coming in to help and make sure her dream was coming true.
Maybe it was just his aura that made me respect him so much.
Well, I mean, he's a business owner. He wanted to get in there and make sure shit was going right. So, yeah.
But
he of course took it seriously.
He was like, "What the hell are you doing, man? Like, get out of here!"
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he lost his shit on Dick.
Surprisingly, wasn't fired. He should have been fired several times. There was a time I remember distinctly. We lost appeal for the ovens to pull the pizzas out of the ovens, and we like our boss, Mrs. Krabs, because she paid for all this stuff like out of her pocket. It was a franchise, you know what I mean? So she paid for all of it.
This is her money
herself. So she's like, I gotta order a new peel. What happened to my peel? Like, why? Where is it? What happened to it? Where is it? And everyone is like, we don't know, including Dick. He's like, I got no fucking idea. A pizza peel? I've never heard of it. You know what I mean? Like this scummy. Not to be a dick, but to Dick. Not to be a dick to Dick. But
it's true though. It's how he was.
He totally lied it through his teeth. When she finally rolls back the cameras, I was there when she rolled back the cameras. Because she got so mad about it to the point where she was like, I can just find out. I don't know why I'm sitting here and like it's a bunch of children, and I'm like, who did it, So she just rolled back the cameras, and he accidentally threw it away. A total accident. Or no. I'm sorry.
It was the trash cans. Because he would have those trash cans dry on the yellow posts, and I think he broke one and didn't want to admit it was broken. And then she witnessed him on the cameras, like, throwing the trash cans on those yellow posts.
No, yeah, I do remember the trash can.
Might have been another time.
But didn't he also break the peel?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the peel was broken. I remember distinctly he set it into the trash can. It wasn't like that's why she was so upset about it.
Like he threw it away.
He set it into the trash can because I think he broke it. And I think he had a problem with... and he threw the trash cans around and he rode on them too. Mm-hmm. And that was how one of them got broken. Anyway, he broke a lot of shit at the Krusty Krab. But that whole situation, multiple times, he lied about who not being responsible, knowing very well that he did. And I was sick of being grilled. I don't want to get grilled by Mrs. Krabs. I didn't do nothing. But anyway, the final story. This is what happened that made me move out. So, the Krusty Krab, God rest its soul, okay, because it was a beautiful place.
It was a great place.
I'll have you know, I won't say the specific place, but they had some sick merch, and I still wear the hat to this day.
He's currently wearing the hat.
I'm currently wearing it right now. I wear it all the time, because I legitimately one of the most, despite Dick and Jane, I talked mostly about Dick. Jane had her issues, just like every other human. She was a bit obnoxious. She had a real problem for stirring drama where she didn't need to. You have a very heavy experience with that.
With Jane?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, we all got our flaws, but the main reason I focused on Dick was because he was the one that really instigated all the problems. And I don't usually, like, when people are confrontational towards me, I don't typically stick up for myself that much. But in one scenario, I did. But anyway, back to the Krusty Krab. We're talking about the Krusty Krab. This franchise sadly shut down. Mrs. Krabs could not keep it running. They had some financial issues come about, which happens. And she pulled us into the office and she said, "Hey guys, you guys, I want you guys to know." She was tearing up. And she was like, "I want you guys to know." I think we were like maybe the second people she had told that day. Because I think she told you first. And it was like, what, didn't she text you or something?
No, she took me aside like 3 days before she told y'all.
Okay, yeah.
And told me and was like, not knowing what to do for the employees just because this woman, has a heart of gold. So she wanted to look out for everybody.
Right.
Make sure everybody was cool.
Yeah. She pulls us back into the office and she's like, "Hey, it's me and Jerry," because Jerry, obviously I don't drive, so Jerry had given me a ride.
Right.
And she pulls us back into the office and she's like, "Hey guys, I want to tell you, I got bad news." And I thought, "Oh, we're getting fired. She's sick of my naps."
No more naps in the back room.
I was like,
I'm sick
damn
of
it. She's sick of me taking naps in the back. How could she, right? No. She goes, "Listen, guys, we're shutting down. Tonight will be the night that I will fall for you. Over again."
Over again!
Don't make me cheat me. Anyway. Sorry.
Copyright.
She says, "Tonight is our last night being open. It's a Friday night. We're going to stay open tonight, and then we're closing. When we close the doors, we're done." And so, obviously, it's sad, but you're also like, fuck, my job, So I kind of panicked because I didn't know what to do, and we had so many issues just in the living situation that I was like, maybe this means I need to go back. I need to move out again. I need to move out. I need to get out of this. And we were coming just up on a year. The lease was about to be up. I wasn't on anyway. And I was like, my real reason for being here, which became the job and how much fun I had at work, is over. So I did apply at the place that my wife, my beautiful wife, Emily, was working at the time, which we had been together. We had already knew each other and been together. She helped me get that job. But I applied there and I was like, just in case I move back. But I'll try to stay here if necessary. Maybe, who knows. So we work our shift. It's a bittersweet ending. That's a story for another time. But all that to say, we're out of a job. We're 4 people living in one apartment with 0 jobs. 0 income coming in as it does. So, or doesn't at the time. Dick applies for different jobs and Jane's applying for jobs and Jerry is like, I wanna work with animals. That's what I went to school to do. I wanna work with animals. So he applies for a veterinary clinic, and my thing is I don't drive. Jerry was my ride to work. We worked at the same place. We lived at the same place, we worked at the same place, very convenient. I don't want to work at a veterinary clinic. I don't know jack shit about animals other than I like to pet dog and pet cat,
Just like them as pets.
Exactly. I was like, I can't do that, So I decided I'm going to move back to my hometown. I told Jerry. We hadn't yet discussed it with Dick and Jane, but the lease was about to be up. Jerry was planning on moving out at the end of the lease anyway because they had all lost their jobs. So all this happens, and one day, well, basically what led up to it is this whole air that Dick thought I wasn't pulling my weight anymore. I wasn't applying for jobs that I can't, because I can't. We were on like a highway. You know what I mean? Like our apartment complex was just off of a highway, so
right.
I can't walk anywhere to work. So Dick is convinced that I'm just lazy, which I was pretty lazy back then, but Convinced that it's because I don't want a job. When in reality, I'm trying to get a job back in my hometown. I just haven't told him yet. Which, again, this is why I'm saying I'm not innocent. I should have just been upfront and honest and told him that. But we had rescued a kitten that I was taking care of, and we had they had bought another kitten that they were taking care of. My kitten stayed in our room because it was like 3 weeks old. It was too young to be away from its mother.
That was the little tiny guy.
Yeah. She's still alive and well and doing great. She's spoiled now. She lives with my mom because of where me and my wife live. They don't allow pets, but my mom has other cats and she likes it over there. So anyway, they had a kitten who vomited in the living room, right? And the reason that my cat didn't leave our room was because I didn't want my young kitten to intermingle with their kitten. Because when we found my kitten, I took her to a vet and got her checked. And they were like, she doesn't have anything as far as we can tell. But we can't do anything. Like, she's too young for shots. So we can't prevent anything. So you need to keep her basically in a crate or like one room. Don't let her like intermingle with other cats that are young and might have things. Or she'll get worms. And then you got to deworm her. You know what I mean? Or she'll get, cat leukemia or whatever. I don't know if that's spreadable, but whatever. She'll get whatever.
She'll get something.
So I was mainly worried about worms. She didn't have worms, which is a miracle for a stray kitten to not have worms.
Right.
So I was like, I don't want to deal with the worms. Their cat had worms, so I didn't let our cats intermingle. Their cat vomits in the floor in the living room, and then they left with the vomit on the floor. So Jerry, who is stressed out, he doesn't have a job anymore, having a rough morning, freaks out. Because Jerry also had a cat, you know what I mean? So there's 3 cats in this apartment and 1 dog. And 4 people. It was a god-awful situation. But he cleans up the vomit and then sends a text to our group chat and says, listen, if you see cat vomit, I don't care whose cat was responsible. If you see cat vomit on the floor, just clean it up. We all have cats. It's really gross, right? And Dick got offended by this and was like, why can't Collin clean it up? He's not doing anything anyway, was his sentiment. And I immediately snapped back because we're all stressed out. It's a hostile environment.
Just the situation that was being addressed also had nothing to do with you.
Right.
Anyway.
And I was called out for no reason.
Right.
So I was like, man, my cat is not the one that vomited on the living room floor. Like, I know that we already established we don't care whose cat did it, but I'm not going to, I saw the vomit. I'm not going to say that I danced around the vomit, you know what I mean, and avoided it. But when I saw it, I didn't jump to clean it up. Because my cat stays in a crate. If she pukes her little milk supplement, it's on a fucking Spider-Man blanket that I've laid on the bottom of her crate because that's where she lives.
Right.
You know, she was too young to go in the living room. So what? She puked in the living room in the middle of the night. She unlatched her crate, walked into the living room, puked,
walked back, latched it,
wiped her little face, and said, this is going to be hilarious. Fuck these. What are you talking about? So I was like, and he had a real problem with he just basically let his cat eat our cat's cat food because, Jerry was giving his cat wet food, and I was giving my cat wet food and milk supplement. She was just getting kind of to the point where she could eat wet food, and she mainly just licked it a lot. But he would just let his cat eat the cat food that was out. And that angered me too, because it's not cheap. I'm not gonna lie. I may have stolen some cat food at some points because we didn't have a job, and I'm not gonna let my cat starve.
Right.
She's hungry. I had to steal a little baby bottle because she would chew through the nipples when I fed her the milk supplement, because I had to feed it to her through a bottle, and she would chew through the nipple. So I had to go get new nipples because when she chews through it, it doesn't work anymore. It just dumps milk on her dumb face. So anyway, all that to be said, he gets angry. He's like, Colin's not doing anything. Why can't he clean it up? And I was like, it's not my cat. Whatever. And he freaks out, and at this point we're texting and arguing. And it boiled down to him saying, I shouldn't disrespect him in his apartment. And I was like, bro, you own a fourth of this apartment. Like, you own a fourth of every room, technically. Just like I own a fourth of every... Like, I'm not on the lease, so maybe I don't, but I'm paying for a fourth of every room, just like you are. And I pay for the Wi-Fi, you pay for the water or whatever, like however we had it split up, And it was... So I finally was like, no, I'm not taking this, And I was like, oh... Like, because he basically was like, don't mess with me. Like, you don't want to fuck with me today. And I was like, oh, like, Big Bad Dick is in a bad mood today. Again. Like, who could have guessed? Like, what a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost it and was like, I want all your shit and you out of my apartment by the time I get home. And I was like, go fuck yourself. And he pulls up and I'm still chilling because I had paid my rent for that month. You know what I mean? And I thought he was going to come into the room and I was ready for yelling at each other, right? Dead silent. That because the minute that we're not behind phone screens, he doesn't want to yell at me anymore. Well,
Dick is a big man in spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the guy driving the lifted F-150 on the road that's twice the size of the lane. You know what I mean? It's all big and bad until it comes down to it, and that's another theory on why he was kind of scared of me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I didn't have that energy. I just had it naturally.
And to be said, well, obviously there's no video, but for those listening, just so you know, Casey is like damn near 8 foot tall.
I don't know about that. I'm 6'4".
It's pretty tall, but yeah.
Dick was a solid 5'8". He was just a meaty guy and wrestled in high school. You know those guys who talk about how they wrestled in high school when they're 55 and how they could take you old timer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of anger problems.
Oh yeah, real angry guy. Never could let shit go.
Yeah. But basically, he tried to kick me out, and I stood my ground, and it ended in a whole like 7 to 8 hours of nobody in the apartment saying a word to each other. And finally, Jerry was going to drive me to the town, my hometown that I live in, that you are not allowed to know.
Don't stalk him.
Don't dox me. But anyway, he was going to drive me here because Emily lived here, and I wanted to hang out with Emily. And I was going to stay the night at my parents' house so I could have a day with Emily and the next day. So I was like, yeah, we're waiting in the living room. And Dick and Jane come out, and they sit on the couch. And I'm like, oh, boy, like what? Well, now we're going to awkwardly sit in silence all in the same room. Like, this is, wow. And finally, Jane... Which, by the way, Dick will not look at me the entire time. He's looking down at the ground. And I'm not claiming that this was out of fear. You know what I mean? There's no way that Dick was ever afraid of me.
But out of self-shame.
Or afraid of an alter. I think it was out of like a shame, ashamed for reacting the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
But Jane says me and Dick have talked it over, and we've decided that you can stay. And I immediately was like, okay, well, I appreciate that, but you didn't decide that I can stay. Like, you're accounting for half of the people that live here. What about...
You don't run shit.
What about Jerry? Does Jerry get a vote? Right? Because you didn't ask him.
Jerry would have said, go fuck yourself,
Do
Collin.
I get a vote?
No, I'm kidding.
He probably, at this point, he probably would have, and that's totally fine. But all I'm saying is that you can't I can't look at Emily, who I rent a condo with, and say, I've decided that we are no longer going to use the upstairs bathroom. It's off limits. Don't touch it.
She'll go, haha, you're fucking funny.
Right. Well, because why? Like, you can't just decide. Just like I can't be like, hey, I've decided that you have to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Because we both live here. Again, we're both on the lease. But if even if she wasn't on the lease, even if it's just me on the lease, She's paying half the bills. I don't know. Again, this is why I brought it up to, because maybe I'm in the wrong.
The only whole legality factor is he could have very well called the police and
been
said
like,
that
oh,
you don't live there. But either way, you still have 30 days to get out legally. Like, you can't just pack your shit and get the fuck out. You know what I mean? You can argue that you had residency there.
And that would have been my argument. But like, you got to give me some time then to find a place to go, because you can't call the cops and be like, oh, I've let this guy live here for like a year, and now I want him to leave.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm paying bills, dog. You're the only reason. I'm the only reason that we had Wi-Fi was because I was paying the Wi-Fi bill. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering things too. Who knows? All that to be said, though, is I came to hang out with Emily, and I got the job here in my hometown, and I decided, I'm gonna move back. And so I did go back for like a day and got the essential stuff, like a lot of my clothes mainly. And because I couldn't drive, I had my mom come and pick me up and bring me back home. And I was like, guys, I texted Jerry and I was like, I'm moving back home because this is ridiculous. And I don't want to face the, wrath of what is to come from that. But I will come get my stuff. And my cat, And they ended up bringing my stuff by coming really early in the morning and just dropping it off on the porch, and didn't really let me know. So my sister was like, hey, why is there a bunch of your shit just on the porch? And I was like, oh my God. So to bring all that in, they rooted through a lot of it. A lot of it was missing, which I think most of it was taken by Dick, maybe some of it by Jerry, but a lot of my stuff was missing.
But at that point, it's just like, just get me the fuck out.
Right. But they did return. It was a bit of an argument to get my cat back, but they did hand over my cat, and she is still thankfully doing well. Because I think they would have. The reason that they bought a kitten was because they found the kitten initially that became my cat, and I was like, you guys already have this dog that's not spayed nor neutered and needs to go to a vet. Why don't you worry about your dog? I'll worry about the kitten. And we all agreed that was the smarter option. And then they got like jealous over it and went and bought a kitten, which was like the exact opposite of the point of what we decided. But yeah, I mean, sorry I rambled for forever, but I just wanted, in your opinion, in these situations, at least from my remembering and from your remembering having been there, like, there were definitely things I could have done differently. But I feel like a lot of, just because of the way that Dick approached situations, was the reason that the environment was so hostile.
I think you two have very opposite personalities too, because you're somewhat more introverted in a way,
right? And
have more of a chill attitude, and stoner mentality in a way.
Yeah.
But as with him, he was always looking like he snorts 18 pounds of coke a day. Always on edge, always angry, always loud. Everything pissed him off. And he doesn't snort coke, by the way. It was totally a metaphor, but
in Minecraft.
Yes. So, Jerry was just a very hostile person, and like Collin said, was a real.
You mean Dick?
Was a real, huh?
You mean Dick was a very hostile person? Jerry was.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I meant Dick. Dick was a real hostile person.
Jerry was not. Jerry was Jerry was from confrontation. He didn't want even to know what you had for breakfast.
Yeah, it was.
He was not into
he
it.
was he's better than Dick though. I'd pick Jerry over Dick any day.
And the sad thing was that Jerry had been a friend of mine since like second grade, and I haven't talked to either. Obviously, I haven't talked to any of them since I moved out. Yeah. But, and that's another lesson, is that things happen, and at the end of the day, we all have sides of a story to tell. I don't harbor any of the ill will towards these people. And the reason that I still think about it, I think, to this day is more just self-reflection of, like, what really led up to these moments of, like, harsh confrontation. And a lot of it, honestly, I realized from thinking about, because it's not like I think about this stuff every day, but from thinking about it for the podcast, I realized a lot of it I blocked out. I've blocked out in my memory because of how uncomfortable the situations made me. But yeah, so I mean, I guess, you know, a bit of a longer winded. I think that what we should do is, I know I had you on here for me to ramble at you, but we'll cut it here. We'll take a little breaky break, and we'll continue into episode 11 on a part 2. If
Yeah, sounds great, sir.
all right, and we'll have, now that I've gotten all my rambling out of the way, we'll hear more about you. How about that?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, I appreciate you all for listening in. It's been a time. The main purpose of this episode is the overall common sense. It's just, if you're gonna live with somebody, be considerate of not only that other person, but consider your actions and your demeanors.
And choose your roommates wisely.
Very, very wisely. And if you get a dog, I swear to God, if you get a dog and it's a male dog,
neuter that dog.
Neuter the dog.
Neuter
I'm
the damn
sorry,
dog.
unless like you have a fucking ranch.
You're not a
and
breeder.
you're gonna breed that shit. Like, there's a very rare percentage that you're gonna be able to do that. But if you do that, fine. If you're getting a fucking apartment with 3 other people, neuter your fucking dog.
That's great.
Thank you. I love you guys, and I hope you all. You know what? Who was it? He's like, remember, it's like at the end of a game show. He always was like, remember to spay and neuter your animals. Remember to spay and neuter your animals, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, and tune in next time for part 2, where we talk about more uncommon nonsense. Have a good one.
Bye.
And so
Get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on?
All right, sorry.
That's the outro.
Thank you guys for watching.